you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live.
Right now.
Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. Dope Soul sporting with the talk. First lady from New York,
Brooklyn.
All my people, you rocking with the chat.
Hit that.
The like button would tell me where you at. You know, step from the MBK. Born and raised up MBK. Hey, real lady, where she holding it down. No matter way how you feel, she gon' greet you with a smile.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's her.
shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
What?
Dope Soul.
What?
Your soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Salute, Knick family. Welcome to the channel. Dope Soul Sports Talk, Dope Soul Knicks Talk, a member of the NBK family. This is the Just Knickin' It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, a.k.a. Queen. And as always, we have a lot to talk about. Julius Randall is due for an extension August 3rd. It's going to be interesting to see whether he signs an extension. Does he opt in for next season and sign an extension off of that? Does he go to unrestricted free agency next summer? We'll talk about that. Precious Achiuwa has re-signed. Is he now the backup center? Is he ahead of Jericho Sims? We'll talk about that. The Knicks sign Chuma Okeke, I think, to a Exhibit 10 contract. He's a legitimate, NBA player. I think he played his first 2 seasons about 25 minutes for the Orlando Magic. I think because of his years in the league, they couldn't put him on a two-way. And I think because of his injury history, the Knicks were able to get away with not giving him part of their taxpayer mid-level exception. So let me bring in the gang. All right, Geoff, Ajay, how you doing? Shout out to the chat.
Salute, Queen Geoff. Always a pleasure to be here, chilling, hanging out, talking about the Knicks. And of course, interacting with the chat is always on fire. Fire.
Yeah, I'm still enjoying.
Queen, where's BKLA on there? We supposed to be talking about Deuce. Shout out to Wiz, man. Come here. I think we're gonna talk about.
He's wanting to see if we have him in our 9-man rotation, and if not, he's going.
Right.
Yo, hit the like button, and we'll know if he's upset when we see like -1 like when we lose a like.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Kareem Grant Bar was in the building early. Biggs, Wiz, BKLA in the building early on DSN. Yep, Sherwin. JJ always rocking with us.
Always rocking with us, man.
Hit him up. Reggie Clark, AAA, Mr. Gemini 90. Man, you make me thinking about Teddy Pendergrass and Mr. Gemini 1967. I hear you. Anyway, let's start off with Julius Randall. He's eligible for an extension. I don't know if you two got an opportunity to read Fred Katz's article in the Athletic. Shout out to Fred Katz, man, putting in that work. Really good article on Julius Randall and how it impacts the Knicks' flexibility, whether he signs or not. But I guess we can't even say contract aside or flexibility aside. Yeah, just your thoughts on Randall due for an extension. Do you think the Knicks sign him for an extension? And if they do you think they sign him for the max? I think he's eligible to extend for 4 years, 182.5, if I'm not mistaken, or 181.5, something like that. Just your thoughts on the extension, and should the Knicks extend them? And if so, would it be for the max? Yes, it was, Reggie. That was my year too. Yes, appreciate it.
Well, I think the Knicks aren't in a hurry on a Randall extension. I don't think they would mind one, but I don't think that it's a massive priority for them. And the reason I don't think it is because I don't think it's not like an Isaiah Hartenstein situation where we're going to be limited in what we can pay him compared to other people, where someone can blow us out of the water with an offer if if he were to hit free agency. So from that standpoint, I don't think the Knicks are in a hurry, and I'm not sure Randle is in a hurry. I think the Knicks would extend him if it was for less than the max. I don't think they want to hand out a max extension right now, um, just for the simple reason that he's been injured, and I think that they want more than a month's worth of data that says that, especially with Mikal Bridges in the fold, that this works. That it's everything that we hope it's going to be. It's one thing to say all these things on, we're a competitor on, a contender on paper, but let's see what it actually looks like with this group on the floor. So I could see the Knicks being patient, and I'm saying all this because I'm wrong so often. If I say he's not going to extend, tomorrow we'll get news that he's locked up for 4 years. So if y'all are Randle stands, don't be upset with me. I'm just trying to get our guy back home for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So I agree with Geoff Queen that the Knicks are not in a hurry, but I'm gonna go further, and Randall is not in a hurry either. There's no rush for either one of them to sign too quick with an extension. But if the extension comes to less than the max, I'm not even sure the Knicks would pen that. They still gonna be waiting. They're still gonna wait and see what they get from Julius Randall this season. Having said that, I don't think they're gonna get a discount. They already got a discount on Julius Randall. I don't think at his age, at the point that he is in his career. He's been a multiple time All-Star, multiple All NBA, and he's, what is he, 30 years old now? So he's not going to have a lot more opportunities to get that bag. So you're not going to get a discount at this point. And rest assured, if we don't pay him, somebody else will. Okay, I don't know if it affects the Knicks, or if the Knicks care that much, or if or if they will compete for his services, as fiercely. But he's gonna get paid, whether be it with the Knicks or somebody else. So he's not in a rush to get. He's not given a discount. Bottom line, and he's not in a rush to get an extension because he knows he's gonna get his. And he's not. Geoff, you mentioned he's been injured. Yes, he's been injured, and that's part of the game. But he's not an injury-prone guy. Julius Randle is usually very healthy. Yeah. Something happened during the game. Like, it's not like there are other guys that just get hurt. They run in and they get hurt. But Julius Randle, there is something happened during the game, an event, like something happened that he got injured, and that's part of the game. So, but he's not injury-prone. Guy. Even after the ankle surgery, he came back to the same horse ship that he was in until he got his shoulder dislocated. So he's not an injury prone guy. He's gonna get his. If I'm him, I'm not gonna be in a rush, and CAA is not gonna be in a rush to sign him with the Knicks, because at the end of the day, they're gonna be looking out for their client, get the best situation for him, and he's gonna get his money, be it with the Knicks or not. So he's not in a rush. He's just gonna play out the game. I think he's gonna have a tremendous year, especially with the rest of the team that he has. He should be more efficient. So I don't think it's gonna be a problem. But he's not in a rush. Just like you, I don't think they're gonna get an extension done right now. That's not a priority, or it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing you two were saying before I read Fred Katz's article, and he brought up some really good points, as he usually does. And one of them was, if he gets signed to an extension, it's going to be well below the max. And his point is, the Brunson extension got the Knicks some flexibility. And you don't want to give up that flexibility by signing Randall to a max contract. Was one of the points one of the points that he made. The Knicks are in a sweet spot in the sense that they have a championship contending team and they have flexibility. Usually when you have a championship contending team, you're pretty much at that second apron and you're locked in. The Knicks are a championship contending team, and if things don't work out for whatever reason, whether that's Bridges, Randall, whatever it is, they can still make some, or the team just doesn't gel. They can still make some moves. So that was one of the points he made. And another point I thought was interesting was that Julius Randall can opt in to the last year of his contract and extend off of that. And if he extends off of that, I think his average salary is, I think, 40 million, 43 million, or something like that. But it doesn't kick in until the 26-27 season. Would that be correct?
That sounds
Because he would
right.
have one more. And in that season, he predicts the Knicks are going to be over the second apron anyway, because Mikal Bridges' contract will also kick in that season. So you're not going to have any flexibility anyway, right? So to that point, I don't think the Knicks are going to give up any flexibility to sign Randall to a max extension this offseason. And I agree with Fred Katz that if they do sign him, it's going to be well below his max so that they can maintain. Because you just don't sign Brunson to an extension to get flexibility and then give it up by signing Randall to a max contract. And this has nothing to do with what Randall deserves, right? I think the rhetoric around Randall is, like he started it, and not only did he started it, he's still a really, really good. He's a star player in the NBA, in my opinion, and you know some people don't want to extend them, not even for cap flexibility. Just don't extend them because we don't need them. You know what I mean? Um, for different reasons.
Well, that brings up an
Yeah,
interesting point. What is Randall's perceived value around the NBA? Like, I know what I think of him. I know that I love him. I think he's great, but what is his perceived value around the NBA? Is he considered a top 10 player? Is he considered a top 20 player? Is he considered a top 30 player? Uh, how much are teams willing to pay to add Randall to their roster? Those are questions I don't know the answer to. I think certainly he means more to the Knicks than he does a lot of other franchises because we've seen what he can do, and we know that he can play well with Jalen, and so from that standpoint, I think that he has that extra value to us. But if you're, you know, I don't know, the Orlando Magic. Well, Orlando's not a good example. But if you're the Atlanta Hawks, are you going to want to offer, Julius Randall $40 million a year? Or if you're the San Antonio Spurs, are you going to want to do that? If you're, and then there are the Houston Rockets, the Utah Jazz, whoever you want to think of. But I just don't know what the perceived value of uh, Randall is, and I would tend to say that he's undervalued around the league, just because he's a time all NBA player. I would think that you would think that a two-time All NBA player would be a no-brainer for a max extension, and yet here we are talking quite the opposite of that. So it's interesting the how the perception of Randall may not equal the reality of Randall.
Well,
I
Jeff,
think.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Queen. I was gonna say we don't know for sure the answer to your question, like what's his value around the NBA, but we can guess because the last couple of All-Star appearances or selections that he had wasn't by clueless fans voting for him. It was by the team's head coaches and personnel that value him so much that they feel he should be on the All-Star team. that's a good indication of how much value they think, like basketball wise, and how valuable they think he is. Okay. So I think they value him. Maybe the Knicks, us Knicks, I don't even think it's the organization. The fans undervalue him. But I think the league does recognize his uh his value. And I think those teams would they wouldn't work. I think they would sign him if you in my opinion, he's one of our most tradable guy. Like if you put him up for trade, you're gonna get a lot of offers for him. So
I will say this. I will say this. There's not a lot of teams with cap space in free agency coming up if the Knicks don't sign them, right? How many teams have $40 million to sign Randall as a free agent? And those that do have that type of cap space, I want to say Detroit is one of those. Like these are bottom feeding teams. So I don't think the Knicks are like, oh, let him go to free agency. Who's got? I don't think they're. I don't think that's what they're saying. But I'm just saying that to us as fans who think that there's going to be a huge market for Julius Randle, and if the Knicks don't sign him, they're going to be at risk of losing him. Can they lose him? Absolutely, they can. But free agency is not what it used to be. I don't think teams are out there looking to give $40 million to Julius Randle in this type of the way the CBA has pretty much changed things. So I think Fred Katz list a bunch of teams with like $20 million, and I think Detroit or another team had like $40 million. And I think the other thing is Randall plays a particular style of basketball that I don't think fits on every single team, you know? So I think Houston does have the money to sign him to a $40 million contract. But does he fit with Sagoon? You know, maybe he does, maybe he does. I mean, that's something I brought up when we were talking about well, me and Tony, I think when we were talking about Sagoon. So I'm not sure what the free agent market is going to be for Randall at $40 million. So I don't think he's going to get a max, not because he doesn't deserve it. I just think the market has changed drastically. Um, and I think it's going to be hard for him to get max money on the open market. And I don't think the Knicks are going to pay him max money either. And it's not about whether or not he deserves it. If that makes um, if that makes sense.
There's no reason to bid against yourself. I mean, as you know, you can love a guy and think he's a great player, but you know, it you don't want to, like, that was the mistake we made with Allen Houston. You know, we made him $100 million offer, and nobody else was coming close to, you know, that kind of a contract for him. So there was no need to. Oh, you know, there wasn't a market to overpay him. We just overpaid him because, you know, we wanted to, and that's not a good business model, and that's not the model that this front office goes by the way. I mean, I think that Brock Aller probably has 95 cents of the first dollar he ever made. You know, they're very good about working the margins and staying within where they want to maintain their flexibility.
Right. Exactly. So I have the list. Charlotte, Detroit, San Antonio, and Utah can create $20 million of space next season. That's not going to be enough for Randall. The Wizards also have enough cap space, but they're in a rebuild. I don't think they're going to. Um, the
And
chances
does
of them
Julius
signing,
want to go to Washington, even if they could sign him? Do you want
even
to make 10 million extra more dollars to suffer in Washington, or do you want to play
correct,
for a contender in New York and make a little bit less when you already know you
right,
love it in New York, your wife loves it in New York, your son loves it in New York? You know, so
right,
yeah, Washington maybe could pony up the contract, but both sides have to want to do that deal. And, you know, sometimes money is everything and it talks, but, you know, if the money is similar, and it will be, I mean, they can't just blow them out of the water. We can offer anything that Washington can offer. And I think we can even do better than Washington can offer. But if we wanted to. So I don't consider Washington a threat unless they get considerably better.
Right. And then Houston is the last team, and we talked about that. And shout out to people in the chat. You guys are bringing up some good points about, Randall, being better than Towns, and Towns makes 51 million, and, being better than Siakam, and Siakam just signed a max contract. But I think context matters. I don't think these contracts is about who's the better player at all. I just don't think that's the measuring stick. I think Indiana paid Siakam the max probably because who's coming to Indiana on the max? And we traded for him. Can we afford to lose him for nothing? You know? And Philadelphia has cap space. Philadelphia can take him right from under us. So we're gonna have to offer him the max. So there was a lot of context for Indiana signing Siakam to the contract they did. And there's a lot of context for the Knicks right now. They want to maintain their flexibility. The Knicks are above the first apron, but below the second apron, and they want to keep it that way. And signing Randall to a max contract takes away that flexibility. And the sense that I'm getting from what I'm reading is that the Knicks do not want to do that. Right? So all indications are that he won't get maxed, or if he does, it's going to be for significantly lower than the max. Is that fair? Is that what he's really worth? I don't think it is what he's really worth.
But that makes more sense why he should wait too then. In other words, if he can't maximize the money that he can make now,
Right.
have a big season, bet on yourself, then in other words, if he comes in, has a great season, and we win the championship, that dude's getting paid. I mean, the Knicks are, in other words, that's the easiest path for him to get his full amount of money is to get on the court, play like gangbusters, and have the Knicks have the ultimate team success. That way, he fits, you can be the champs because you've done it, and you want to keep the band together. There would be absolutely no reason for Leon Rose and company to not re-sign him if that's the case.
Do you think then, but do you think they're not re-signing him? Do you think it's a flexibility issue, or you think is they don't believe in him type of, like, I think it's more of a wanting to maintain the flexibility.
I don't think it's a matter of don't believe in him. I think it's a matter of, one, flexibility, and two, he's one of the movable pieces that you have. In other words, if you want you're approaching the second apron, if you want to make a swing and change up the roster some, the pieces that you have to accomplish that are guys like Randle and Robinson and and a few others. Precious Achiuwa is one. Campaign is another one. If we use the mid-level exception, that taxpayer mid-level exception, that'll be another piece that we can use. But I think that the core of the Villanova boys is that, and OG Anunoby, that's the set in stone part as far as I am concerned. I'm not saying that as a critique on Randle or what I would do. I just think that this is the view of the front office long term. Because remember, they re-upped Randle, but they didn't bring Randle in. Randle and Robinson are the two players that this franchise didn't really handpick, so to speak. They inherited both players, and they've kept that going for various reasons. One, Randle's on-court performance has been unbelievable, and Robinson is on a good value contract, and so there's certainly been assets for the Knicks, but I think that in terms of, this is a business, and in terms of team building, if they have to. If they have to make moves that to get another player that they think fits better, and again, we won't know that until we haven't seen this version play yet. We don't know what they need, what their weaknesses are, we can project, but we won't know until we see it. And so I think from that perspective is that Randle is the one piece. Randle and Robinson really are the two pieces that you're most comfortable moving in order to, if you need to kind of change direction just a little bit. I think DiVincenzo and Hart and Bridges and Brunson are kind of, I don't think they're going to mess with those guys, and I don't think they're going to mess with OG either, because I think they the concept of wing stop, I think, is really important to them.
The only thing I'll say to that, and then we'll get to Ajay. If they feel like we're not there yet, you know, they can bank on internal improvement. You know, we're not there yet, but as a team, we'll get better, and as a team, you know, Randall will be better. Because to trade Randall, you can't trade Randall for spare parts. Like you have to trade Randall for another guy with gravity. Unless Bridges shows next season that he can be a number 2, right? And then that does change what the Knicks can look for if they do look to trade Julius Randall. But you can't just be like, "Oh, this didn't work. We didn't win a championship. We need to tweak it." And the tweak is we need to trade Julius Randle. Like that's a
Well,
major
I don't think I was clear then. What I'm saying is if they're going to move Randall, it's going to be someone for equal or greater value. It's not, I'm not talking about moving Randall for 3 role players or something. I'm talking about a Randall trade where we aggregate salary with a couple other players and we bring in someone who's a big name and has gravity. It would be a similar type player and just kind of, you know, probably using the rest of our draft equity in the process, you know, to bring someone substantial in here. I don't think they're looking to move Randall by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, I think that, again, what are you saving your flexibility for? Like that would be my question. If you want to be flexible, what are you trying to be flexible for? In other words, if you're 100% sold that this is your crew, then you don't really need flexibility. Just lock everybody in like Boston did and go to war. You know, but that's not the case, and understandably, it's not the case. We haven't won anything yet, so I don't think you want to do that. So it's not, and to me, it's not a question of Randall's on the block. It's not a question of, you know, trading Randall for pennies on the dollar or anything like that. I think we think this is an outstanding player with a lot of value, who's on a good contract, who could potentially, if added to other pieces, bring us an even better player, potentially. And if it doesn't, I don't think it gets moved. I think it's as simple as that. Like if that offer that I'm talking about is not on the table, they're perfectly comfortable having Randall in the lineup, in my opinion.
right. Ajay?
Listen, Queen, I'm not moving Randall. And shout out to Sherwin. Queen, I don't think I ever agree with Sherwin, but he said something that I actually agree with. He said he's moving Randall for Giannis only. I think that's probably the only other power forward I would move him for. I know Giannis make a little more money than he does, so they have to work out the numbers, and that'll put us over some sort of apron, right? But otherwise, I'm not. Listen, and Queen, you mentioned, you know, they're gonna see how it works. You know, depending on how Mikal Bridges does this week, maybe they'll feel that they can move Randall. I don't care how well Bridges does. I'm not moving. What's wrong with having 3 guys with gravity? You in a better position when you have 3 players that command the double team. Why would you get rid of one of them just to get another couple of okay guys that'll get you rebounds that the other team feel that they don't have to stick to? Nah, have 3 guys that requires
I'm
double team.
I'm not advocating trading Randall. I'm saying if they were, you have to bring in somebody else with gravity. You can't leave Brunson with just role players.
Yep.
That was my only point. We saw how that worked out for us last season. Yeah, we were within one game of the championship game, but we was running on fumes
Yep.
to make that happen and wearing Brunson down. Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, so if Mikal Bridges, if that in, I expect that to work out. You expect him to at least his guy to at least stick with him. Whoever's checking him is not gonna leave him to double team Randle, right? So you expect him to at least do that. So it's just gonna make us a better team, right? It's just gonna make us that much better. So Randle is on a very fair contract for his value. I think for the play when he's healthy, what he brings to the team, that's an excellent contract.
Yeah,
So
but the
I'm not,
contract is up. That's the issue. The contract is up.
it will be up, but you
It
still
will be up.
got a year to mess with it to see what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? So you still got time. And I would want I'm definitely rolling what I have right now out there. I'm very confident with what we have. I'm extremely confident with what the Knicks have right now. I'm very happy about it. I'm not moving anybody right now.
Right. But yeah, I think the conversation moved to
Extension.
move
Yeah, I know.
it.
I know. We started
It
from
was very
extension to
we
but
started
yeah,
with, are you
yeah.
extending him, are you extending him now? Listen, if the Knicks can extend him and preserve flexibility, do it. Do it. But if extending him means that we go over the second apron, I'm not doing it. Um, because as great as
They
this
can't
team
do it now.
Hmm?
But
I mean, well, no, I mean, never mind. Yeah, because I keep forgetting an extension doesn't kick in for 2 years, so it'll be 2 years down the road that they
let
would
me
be.
Right.
let me
Because
ask a
I'm not
question.
wait, let me just finish this
Oh,
um
sorry, Quinn. I
quick
don't
point.
took
No,
my
it's okay.
time.
It's okay. Um, the only reason I would want to preserve flexibility is this team looks great on paper, but to Jeff's point, we have to play it out and see. And I want to play it out and see. But if for whatever reason it doesn't work, and I'm not saying it has to be Randall, I want us to have flexibility to add to this team, flexibility to make moves. And once you get over that second apron, it's extremely hard to do that. And the Knicks are not over the second apron right now. So keep the flexibility. And it has nothing to do with what I think about Randall and he deserves. I just want the Knicks to maintain their flexibility.
So
Ajay?
my question was gonna be, so we're talking about flexibility, right? So do you feel like Mikal Bridges affect, like, kind of lessen or reduces our flexibility? Like the fact, let's say if we didn't sign him, we'd be more flexible, right?
If we didn't sign, I'm sorry.
We would be more flexible. Yes.
If we didn't sign Randall,
No, Mikal Bridges.
We better
we're
sign
not.
Mikal Bridges. We
No,
just gave up
if we did not, we would be more flexible. And but what I'm saying
At some
is,
point, the flexibility ends. When Mikal Bridges' extension kicks in, which I believe is the 2026-2027 season, the Knicks are going to be over the second apron. Even without Randall, they're going to have three players making over 30 million, $34 million or $35 million. So the flexibility, we're only talking about for another year or two. It's not going to be indefinite.
right. But if I'm Randall, I'm gonna say, well, you guys, why you worried about flexibility when it comes time to my contract? Like, why they weren't worried? It's almost like they weren't worried about that when they signed OG Anunoby for all that money, or when they bought in Mikal Bridges, knowing that he was gonna be re-signed next year. I would be like, well, what, y'all didn't think about that last year? Like, you throwing money around. What
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
why y'all worried about flexibility now when it's my turn to negotiate?
Mhm.
So listen, I don't know what the front office is doing, but you got to try to look at it from the player's point of view. He's got to get his money. Like, he's not 24 or 25, right? So he's on that. He's starting to go on the other side now of his prime years.
Yeah,
So
I mean, when you look at it from Randall's perspective, you're absolutely right. He can definitely say that. He can definitely say that. And then the Knicks' choice is then to allow him to go to free agency, and try to sign him then.
But do you
There's not
think
gonna be a lot of options for Randle in free agency, though,
would
and
it
the
look
Knicks.
bad? Would it look bad on the front office to just let him walk in free agency and kind of not sign him after he gave them what was perceived as a discount?
If Randle leaves in free agency, it would be a disaster. It would be a disaster, and they didn't get anything for it would be a disaster. I don't
I would be
anticipate that.
stunned if that happened. I
Yeah, I don't
literally
anticipate
stunned if that.
that. Yeah.
I mean, just because let's remember, just because he doesn't get an extension doesn't mean that the Knicks aren't interested in having him around long term. There can be a lot of reasons. He may not want to do the extension right now. He may think he can make more money if he doesn't extend. Who knows? There's a there are levels to this. There are and we'll find out. I mean, I think it's Saturday that he's actually eligible to sign it for the first time. And the other
Yes.
thing about the extension doesn't him signing the extension pretty much give him a no trade clause for the season? So from an organizational perspective, that locks you in, and maybe that's something that they don't want to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Shout out to Wiz. Do we really have time? If we don't extend him and he opts out after playing well this upcoming season, we would have to compete with the market or lose him for nothing. But that's what we was just talking about, Wiz. The market is not that strong. Charlotte, Detroit, San Antonio, and Utah can create up to 20 million in space. And I'm reading from Fred Katz's article in The Athletic. Great article, by the way. $20 million is not enough for Randall. The Wizards will have enough cap space for him, but they're in a rebuild. Do they want Randall? Do they want to pay 40 million on a rebuilding team? Maybe. And then there's the Houston Rockets. You know, um, they'll have money as well. Do they want to pair him with Sagoon? Maybe they do. So this idea that when you go to free agency, everybody is going to have money, and if they do have money, that they see Randall as a fit for them. I don't think that's I don't think that's going to be the case. And the Knicks know that, and Julius Randall Camp knows that as well. You know, so when you're trying to get leverage, you're thinking about like who has cap space that I can get leverage from. And that's a threat to the Knicks, so I can get my money. I don't know what kind of leverage they have.
Houston seems like a legitimate threat to me. I think that they're a team that wants to win. That's the kind of splash move that would please their fan base. I could see of all the teams that you mentioned, the Rockets are the only one that out of those that seem dangerous. But Anthony D makes a good point. Nobody knew that the Cavaliers were interested in Donovan Mitchell until Donovan Mitchell was a Cleveland Cavalier. So just
But that
because
was a trade.
right, but I'm just
Was a trade.
saying you don't know who's interested until and but again, you're talking about freeing up cap space. That's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, especially carving out enough to sign a player like Randall. The destinations could be limited to those teams that we just mentioned, and if that's the case, again, the Rockets are the one team that I would be concerned with. Everybody else, I just don't see it.
Right. But there's a trade you're going to get value back. We're talking about losing him in free agency for nothing. And the point is, there's only two teams, Washington and Houston, where that can happen as of right now for free agency. Now a trade, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or if he decides he wants to leave and the Knicks have to do a sign and trade, fine. But for him to just leave and walk to another team, the options are limited.
But it just takes one.
Yeah. So we'll see. And the other option is him opting into the last year of his contract and extending off of that. And then the Knicks will maintain flexibility that way as well if he does that.
I could see that happening.
I could see that happening too. Because I think if I remember correctly, then that contract will either start at 40 something million or be an average of 40 something million per year if he extends and signs if he opts in and signs an extension off of that.
Which is a huge pay raise from what he's making now, we should point out.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I hear you, Sherwin, but that wasn't in the article about Brooklyn having a hundred million. Maybe they will, but I haven't seen that. You know, the good thing is Julius Randall will be on the team next season. I don't think I don't think the Knicks trade him unless it becomes clear behind the scenes that similar to Quickly that they're not going to be able to come to any terms. Then I
Right.
could see them trading at the deadline. Other than that, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. Anything else on Julius Randle? Let me check in um, with the chat. I think Jabrani underscore Z, appreciate you. I think him opting in his last year and getting an extension is the most likely scenario. I think so too. I think so too. Because all indications is that Randall knows what the Knicks are trying to do, and he wants to help them do that as well. Like he wants to help them get this backup center. We'll talk about Precious Achiuwa and if that's actually it um, for the season. Randall is a great playoffs from bringing an all-time Nick.
Agreed, JJ.
Yep.
Is Randall damaged goods? Are you talking about the shoulder injury? Because if it's the shoulder injury, I think he'll bounce back for that. I don't think I don't know. And he had surgery as well. So I think he's gonna be fine. Okay. Hey, Prezi says he thinks they'll put some sort of injury clause in his contract.
In Randall's contract?
Right?
You
Yeah.
talking about Randall? We just signed OG Anunoby with no injury clause. That ain't happening. That's not they're not doing that.
Yeah. Now that's that like you're gonna sign everybody to extension. You're not gonna sign me, and you're gonna put an injury clause after you
Yeah.
just gave $500 million
Yeah,
to,
right.
to
All of a sudden you're worried about flexibility. Then now you want to give me a really? Yes.
that's a great point. Oh, that's a great point. Folks said Nick fans always worried about letting someone walk. There's no way he walks for nothing. Just that would be malpractice. That's not happening.
Of the highest order. No doubt.
Shout out to Boogie. Yeah.
Oh, Jay
Blessing,
Book.
health, happiness. Randall deserves to be on this team, and he will be. And he will be. And he will be. To me, Kareem, and shout out to you. Randall deserves a max right now. I don't even think it's about whether we get a chip or not. I don't think him getting a max or not getting a max, for me, in my opinion, is about his performance. And I know some people may point to his playoff performance and say because of that, he doesn't deserve a max extension. That's not the issue for me. The issue for me after reading Kat's article was how can we maintain flexibility? And signing him to a max means we don't have that flexibility. So if we can sign him for less than that and maintain flexibility, fine. Obviously, if we have to choose between no flexibility and losing him, I'm going to choose no flexibility. I think we're going to be okay with Randall. But if we can have both, that would be the ideal. That would be the ideal situation. All right. Somebody called you, Geoff, a Randall and Mitch hater. They don't watch the show, though. They don't watch the show.
Yeah, I definitely hate Mitchell Robinson.
What?
That's very true.
They don't watch the show. I think people think that if you say one, I wouldn't even say bad thing, but if you voice your opinion on somebody and it's something they disagree with, you're a hater. Like to me, that's the most overused word in the
Queen.
Knick community.
I get a little trauma just thinking about the RJ Barrett days. When you talk about RJ
Right.
Barrett, people are like, "Oh my God, you guys
All you
hate
doing is
him."
you're telling the truth. He's inefficient. Oh, you're hating on him. You're just a hate. He shoots 43%. Oh, you a Mitch hater. It's the truth. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. All right. So I think that's it. Shout out to the chat. Quiet Money. I haven't seen you in a while. Appreciate you.
Salute, Quiet Money.
Yeah, it's been a
QM.
building blocks. Been a minute. King Ribby RM. David
Yeah.
L. Appreciate you. Part of the replay gang as well. All right. Okay. Anything else on yeah.
One more thing, not on none of that stuff. While you shouting out the chat, they're not hitting the like button. Right? We got 90. I see 90 on YouTube here, only 44 likes, man. Let's get the likes up, man.
Yeah, let's get the likes up. Yeah.
Let's get the likes
Don't
up,
take
man.
off, don't take off points for my video glitching, okay? Don't hit the like button.
There you go.
All right. Anything else on Randall before we move to Precious? Got to get this in before Ajay leaves.
Yeah, no, I got another couple of minutes. We could talk about Precious, right?
Yes.
You guys.
Yes.
No, Queen. I'm very happy to sign Precious because I think he brings a lot of value to the team. Because, like as I said many times on this podcast, he could back up the 4 and the 5. He give you some good minute at both position, and those are 2 positions. He's a big body. He could do both. Listen, there, as with every player, there's a handful of player in the league that he can't handle, that'll bully him, push him around, treat him like a rag doll. But overall, he could give us some really good minutes at the 5. Right? He's not a pushover. He plays defense. You know, he cuts. He sets good picks. He does the little things. And I think, Tom Thibodeau, he recognizes that. I don't understand why it took so long to sign him, but I guess they were negotiating the no trade clause issue that they were, that was part of his contract that they were trying to get rid of. But I think it's a good signing, especially right now. We're looking for a backup big. We say backup center, but a backup big. So, and don't be surprised if sometimes you see him and Randle on the court at the same time. Depending on who we playing and what set we're running, it's very possible that both of those guys who are almost the same size, the same height, the same build, and you see both of them on the court at the same time. So I think he's going to have a very good season. It's going to be worth the $6 million that he's getting paid, I think. So I'm very happy to sign him because I think he gave us some really good minutes last season when our bigs went down. Or when Mitch went down, I should say.
Well, Iheart went
Yeah.
down too for a little while there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was, I think he started like over 10 games last year for us.
Yeah.
I don't remember the total now, but
And
it's more
that's
than
at
10.
some point, iHeart had he was they were playing him limited minutes because of the
10
Achilles thing. Yeah. So and Precious, he was he was logging in a lot of minutes, and he was pretty effective in those minutes. So yeah.
I will. I forgot what article I was reading. The Knicks were under 500, I believe, with Precious at center, and our plus minus, we were either slightly under minus or slightly over. I think it was 0.6, either under or over. So it wasn't like he was jail busters at that gangbusters, I should say, at that position. But I mean, it is what it is. My disappointment is not with Precious per se. Um, I'm trying to win a chip this season, and I'm trying to prepare. I would like the Knicks, I should say, to prepare for every contingency. And one of the contingencies is Mitchell Robinson getting hurt. And so that backup center has to be able to play as a starter. And we weren't great with Precious Achiuwa at center, even though his numbers was great. The team wasn't great with Precious um at center. But but and we'll get into this a little later on in the show. What I'm happy about is after the rotation, and I'm not sure Precious is going to be in the rotation. He might, because he might actually. That's a question. Do you think he overtakes Sims now, and do you think he's the backup center over Sims?
I'll answer. You know what? I think it depends on who we're playing. So there are teams you play, you need a big body, like a big, more athletic guy in the middle. I think the thing is, I don't know if Tom Thibodeau is going to be as flexible, like if he's going to stick to his guns and do what he does every night, or if he's going to be flexible enough to understand that tonight's opponent, it's best if we put Jericho Sims in those minutes that we would normally give Precious Achua. Because some teams you would need somebody like Jericho Sims to bang bodies in there. Because obviously Jericho Sims, he appears to be much stronger than Precious Achua, and obviously more athletic. So depending on who you're playing, I think it's you know it's up to the coach. I don't think none of that is set in stone. Hopefully, Thibodeau will be that flexible to understand that depending on who the opponent is, you change your lineup to accommodate, to give you a better chance of winning. And Queen, in terms of contingency, so listen, you can't possibly have you can have contingency for at every position, but you got to understand the contingencies, that's like your donut spare tire, right? It could that donut is designed to take you to the next tire shop. It's not designed to drive from here to Florida. That thing
Yeah.
will fly off, right? So it gives you it's just it gives you a little bit until you get better. So you're not going to have the same result if, God forbid, let's say Jalen Brunson gets hurt and you bring in campaign. You're not going to have the same. It's you know it's not gonna be the same thing. Even if let's say OG Anunoby gets hurt and you move Mikal Bridges to the 3 and bring in DiVincenzo, it's not gonna be the same thing. You may get good result because those guys, but it's not gonna be the same thing.
Right.
So it
Right.
it is
That's fair.
contingency, but it ain't gonna be like the real deal.
It's true. But I would like a better contingency than Precious. But I hear what you're saying. You're right. You're right. It's not going to be the same. I think we were fortunate with iHeart stepping up, and we were fortunate a few years ago when Noel, stepped up, and the team still performed well. So you're right. You're right. It's not
Right.
going to be the same, but I don't know. I just feel like I would
You
want a better contingency plan than Precious. But
gonna
you're
be
right.
fine.
You're right.
You're gonna be fine with Precious.
I don't. You was the main one when he couldn't finish around the basket. You was
No,
right
no,
with
but overall, he's good. Like he's not, there's some games he just like Randall. Randall's good, but some games he he's turning the ball over in the last possession. The game's tied. He thought, listen, we complain about all these little things, but overall, I think it's good. It's good that we signed him.
Okay.
I,
All right. All right. I mean, you and
so
Jeff against me.
we'll,
It's fine. You
we'll
don't have
we'll
to.
revisit that. We'll revisit that in December. You're gonna say, "Oh, okay, you guys were right." Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. Magellan, that no trade clause. Even the Knicks are not convinced. Like they want that flexibility to be able to move him at the
Uh,
trade. Yeah. 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 I mean, what I will say is it's out of all the positions not to be super set, that's the best. Like that's the best position probably, you know. You know, for there to be some weakness. If you and some people don't even consider that a weakness. Some people consider Mitch Sims and Precious a strong center core. But even if it's not, if one position has to be weak,
and
center
and
or power forward, one of them,
and
not both.
and, and Randall, Randall's gonna be playing some 5 minutes. It's not a bad situation at all.
Yeah. For me, the backup to Mitchell Robinson would be OG. Like when Mitch is off the floor, we'd be playing small.
You may see that. You may see that. I think that's a very real possibility. But I think also you need to remember something that you yourself said, Queen, and I think this is a great point that's brought me comfort in this offseason is if you have McCall and OG together, maybe you don't need the rim protecting dominant center. Maybe you can get away with more small ball lineups. Maybe you can get away with a Precious Achiuwa who doesn't, protect the rim in the same way, but is very switchable on pick and roll situations and can guard multiple positions. Maybe you can get away with that because Bridges is such a strong defender,
Yeah.
and so is OG. It's a different roster, and it's not something that we've seen before. And I think Mikal Bridges' defense really increases the flexibility of what Tom Thibodeau can do. And don't be surprised if Tibbs is more flexible than people anticipate he's going to be, because I really feel like he wasn't as rigid last year as his reputation suggests, and maybe that was out of necessity just because everybody got hurt. But back to your original question, I do think that Precious will be ahead of Sims on the depth chart. I think that I also agree with you that I think you're going to see OG get his fair share of time at the 5. Just because I think that they're going to want to play Josh Hart minutes, and you're going to want to. Josh Hart's going to play. If you want to ask who our backup 4 is, Josh Hart was our starting 4 last year for a good part of the season. So you can bet that if Julius isn't on the floor, that Josh Hart's going to be in there at that position, and that means if you want to move stuff around and get DiVincenzo his minutes and get Deuce McBride his minutes, and that you're going to have to maybe use those backup center minutes to in non-traditional ways, and I think that's okay. And I think if Tom Thibodeau trusts the guys who are out there enough, I think he'll be willing to stray from that principle a little more than if he just had like for example, the first year he was here when he had Nerlens there. I think he wanted that rim protection because he didn't have the flexibility on the wing defense. He didn't have all these other pieces that you could plug and play in different ways. But now that he does, I think he's going to take advantage of that.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he does. Shout out to what's that? Dorkosaurus Rex.
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't know.
great
I
screen
don't
move.
know if yeah, I like that. I don't know if it's about overlooking Huck Porty. It's just that not only is he a rookie, he's on a two-way. Now, can they convert a two-way to a standard contract? They can. But the fact that he's on a two-way to start lets me know that they don't think he's ready. Um, and he looked okay in summer league, but I don't and over time, maybe even by the end of the season, he may prove to be better than Sims and maybe overtake Sims in the depth chart. But right now, coming into training camp, I don't see Huck Porty as an option in the rotation to start the season. Anything can happen as we go along, but I just don't see it. Does anybody on the panel, Ajay, Jeff, do you see Huck Porty being anywhere near the rotation?
I
No,
don't.
I don't.
Yeah. I don't think so. The the Knicks, like maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, remember we had all the young guys? Maybe. But right now the Knicks are trying to win a championship, and I think experience matters.
Ah, the play the kids. Yeah, play the kids.
Yeah, I think experience matters, which is why um was it Adjut? No, Staffer. Oh, Staffer called me. Shout out to Staffer. I don't know if he's listening, giving me the business, giving me and Ajay the business.
Why?
Ajay was on the phone though. Um, this is the same reason why I don't think Kolick is going to be in the rotation. I just think if you're trying to win a championship, you need some experience behind Randall. Excuse me, behind Brunson. Um, and Stafford was, yeah, yeah. Kolick is in the rotation. But this for the same reason I don't see Huck Porty to me is just not ready regardless. Kolick is way ahead of Huck Porty. I just think for me personally, I want some experience behind Brunson.
So, so he thinks Kolik's gonna get minutes over campaign, for instance, or
Yes. Campaign is situational.
um,
Well, I agree that campaign is situational, but I think Kolek is too.
Yeah.
But I guess that leads to our I don't want to jump the
Yeah.
gun on the
Our
on.
next session when we talk about our rotation. But I have one more chat I want to talk about. At one point, if we don't
yeah,
re-sign
I saw that
Randall,
one.
would you trade him for Pete? Yeah. So yeah, yeah. You can't trade. Well, not that you can't. I'm not trading Julius Randall. And if I am, I'm not trading him for players who can't create their own shot and create for other people. You got to look at how our team is structured and how most championship contending teams are structured. They have at least two players that can create for themselves and create for others, two go to guys. You trade Randall, now you bring in more mouths for Brunson to feed, more mouths, more players that Brunson now has to create for. When does he get a break? Who's going to create for him? Who's going to help him create for other people if you're bringing in PJ Washington, Gafford? These are all role playing guys, and that's mostly what we have already. Role
And
players.
And I'm not sure if the Mavs do that deal either. By the way, those three guys are instrumental in their defense. They have in Irving and Luka. They have their scorers. They need those guys defensively.
to do the
I mean,
dirt, to do a little
that's
dirty work. And Queen, back to that comment, to add insult to injury, we don't even get a first round pick with that thing. He throws in the second round pick.
well, Dallas doesn't have any first round picks to give. I don't
That's
think.
that deep. That ain't happening.
Salute Stafford.
So one more second round pick to add to the other 62 that we have. We don't need. We're done. Listen, if you trade Julius Randle, unless you're getting a Giannis or one of those guys, you better throw in a couple first round picks, man, because we need first round picks right now. Oh, shout out to Stafford, man.
Definitely shout out to Stafford.
Listen, we got a new. I don't even know if we had an old president to the Jericho Sims Club, but we're gonna name Kerry Cox president of the Jericho Sims fan
Shout
club.
out, Kerry.
Salute.
Congratulations, Mr. Cox.
Keep
Well
and
deserved.
hope alive for Jericho Sims. And I
He
did
drank,
read somewhere.
he
Go ahead.
drank the Kool-Aid. He been watching the workout videos, man. So he's all in.
Well, I did say he was battling injury last year, which I found interesting. Nobody said anything about that, but if he's finally healthy, maybe he will be better. Who knows?
Yeah, not just last year, Jeff. I read that he was injured the past few off seasons. And so he was basically rehabbing and couldn't work on his game. This is the first off season he's had to work on his game. So maybe that's why we haven't seen as much improvement as I thought we would see. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe
Uh,
It
maybe
explains
this
a
is
lot,
the year.
actually, doesn't it?
Sure.
I like Yerksevin. I do like him. I would have liked them Knicks to take a flyer on him. Yeah, yeah. I would have liked the Knicks to have taken a flyer on him, but
Queen, before you jump on the next thing, I want to thank you, Jeff, and the chat for having me tonight. But unfortunately, I can't stay any longer, Queen. I told you I was going to be on for about an hour. I got to jump back to my thing there that I was doing. And shout out to the chat, man. Don't forget to hit that like button, man.
definitely.
The chat's being like real stingy with it tonight. Anyway, so peace, show, and I'll catch the rest of the show, on the replay. And make sure you guys on the replay game, man, add your comments and all that good stuff because we do interact when you guys
Yes.
listen to the show afterwards and comment. All right, so peace, everybody. All right,
Appreciate
all right.
you. Okay, so we got Kerry Cox as the president and Wiz as the vice president of the Sims.
Is Wiz going to have time as president of the Deuce McBride fan club to be vice president of the Jericho Sims fan club? He may be stretching himself a little thin there, Wiz. I'm a little concerned about that.
That's a great. A lot of the comments on Sims just kind of runs the gamut. He should be in the G League. He'll show improvement. This is going to be a breakout year for him. Let's see. Let's see. I mean, he's the only breakout candidate because of how far he has to go. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know who else could be a breakout candidate. Randle, 1973, appreciate you. I think Tibbs wants to see how Precious and Sims work out. Plus, if Mitch can stay healthy before the trade deadline to see if they're going to trade for another big man. Yeah, that's true. I've heard Robert Williams III, who's another injury-prone player that the Knicks may be looking at the deadline. Vucevic in Chicago at the deadline. And who's the center? Played for New Orleans, now in Washington.
Valanciunas.
Valanciunas. None of those guys are rim protected. Like the Knicks would really have to be sold on our perimeter defenders to bring those. Except for Robert Williams, but for the other two, they would really have to be sold on our perimeter and team defense to bring them in. Okay. All right. Anything else on Precious Sims, Jeff?
The only other thing I'll say is that, like we talked about before the show, is that part of the reason he waited is he ended up getting paid more. He had a 1-year, $6 million deal, is a lot more than some of these other cats who are more established players. At the 5 spot, ended up signing vet minimum deals. So by waiting, he actually got paid more. And the interesting thing about that is he waived his no trade clause, because if we trade him, then he's eligible to make like 7.4 million as the base of his next contract with whoever he signs with. And so it really, from a financial standpoint, is a great deal for Precious, whether he stays here or not. And don't rule out the possibility of us aggregating salary between he and even Jericho Sims possibly, and campaign. You've got you've definitely got some smaller salaries that you could put together here to get to add together to get a 10-11 million dollar player who's more rotation worthy. Let's just put it that way than some of these other guys, and for guys who aren't going to see much burn on this club as it's presently constituted, just because there are no minutes available. Let's just be honest. Again, we talk about flexibility all the time. We still have our mid-level taxpayer exception. That's another 5 million. If you sign a player there and you have 6 million from Precious and 3 million from Payne, all of a sudden you're up to $14 million. You can't take in more than that, but you could get a nice $12.5 million player, to fill in a need at the trade deadline, which, is a good thing to have in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Teams have won with rookies making big contributions. The Celtics' most recent run included. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. I am also on the board of directors of the Tyler K Club. I like Tyler too. I really like him. I mean, really like him.
I'm a huge fan of Kolek also.
Yeah. We are the only team in the league that has 3 dynamic duos: Brunson and Randall, OJ and Bridges, Dante and Josh. I'm not breaking up anything until I find out I can't win with this squad. Yeah. Yeah. I totally
I think Leon
agree.
Rose agrees with you, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the depth chart. Now, I think a lot of times when we talk about depth, we think about the second unit. But depth for me also includes those situational players, like those players that are just outside the rotation who are like one injury away from stepping into your rotation. And before we signed Payne and Achiuwa and Okiki, who I'm not even sure. Exhibit 10 to me is almost like a training camp invite. Um, Before we signed those guys, our rotational pieces were our rookies. I mean, excuse me, our situational players were our rookies. But now our situational players, depending on who they are, they're going to be experienced players. So I'm definitely more comfortable. So Geoff, if you had to, this is our very early rotation players, right? Like they do the way too early mock drafts. We're gonna do the way too early um, depth chart for the Knicks. How many players do you think the Knicks are playing? Who's your starters and who's your second teamers? And then the chat can do it as well. How many players you think are going to be in the rotation? Who's your starters and who's coming off the bench?
Well, I think there's going to be a 9-man rotation at most. I think the starters are pretty well set. It's Brunson, Bridges, OG, Randall, and Mitch. I mean, that's your starting 5. I don't think there's any question about that. I think Deuce gets minutes. I think the other 2 Villanova boys, Hart and DiVincenzo, get minutes. And I'm going to say Vincenzo is the 9th. I mean, Chua is the 9th guy for right now. Because I
I'm
think
sorry, I
that
missed. You said Hart, um, DiVincenzo.
DiVincenzo,
Uh-huh.
Deuce, and Achua
Deuce.
as
Okay.
I think that's going to be the 9. I think that Precious will play the backup 5 minutes. You backup 4 is going to be Josh Hart, and he'll play some backup 3 also. You can see Anunoby slide in there at the 5 spot. for some spot minutes, maybe a few Randle minutes at the 5. But we need to get DiVincenzo's minutes up to the 25 minutes per game neighborhood. We need to get Hart's minutes into that neighborhood. And so to put anybody else in the rotation just doesn't seem like it's going to be something that they're going to want to. I don't think they're going to want to play DiVincenzo 15 minutes a game. I don't think he's going to get Obi Toppin minutes. I just don't think that's a reality. And so that means that playing him he or Deuce at the backup 1, and I think Deuce is going to I think they want Deuce to have a good a role, like a 20-minute per game role, maybe a little less, but I think they want to have Deuce out on the floor as well, because I think that he fits in well with Bridges and with some of these other guys, and he can play nominal backup point guard if we need him to. But I just think that those are the 9 guys, and I just I don't. I like Tyler Kolek. I don't think he's going to play. I think Campaign is a good person to have. I wish we had someone like that on the team last year, but I don't see him being in the rotation right away, because I don't think they want to play a 1-year contract guy over Deuce. I just don't see that happening. In fact, I think if Brunson were to get hurt or had to miss some time, I think Deuce may go into the starting lineup even. It could be DiVincenzo too, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a world where Deuce became the starting 1, and then Campaign came in with the bench unit with DiVincenzo and Hart. I could see a world where that happens as well, but I definitely think it's going to be 9.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 9. I have the same starters: Brunson, Bridges, OG, Randall, and
Mitch.
Mitch. Yep. But I'm gonna differ from you in that second unit. I have Campaign backing up Brunson. I have Devo. I have Hart backing up the. I have Hart and I have Precious above Sims, and I have McBride and Sims and Okiki if he makes the team situational. And the only reason I say that is the Knicks were not good in the non-Brunson minutes. They just weren't. And I think it helps to have an actual point guard backing up Brunson, somebody who has 50 something games of playoff experience, someone who played 20 minutes last year on a championship contending team. He played 20 minutes a game and averaged close to 10 points. Somebody who, as ugly as his 3-point shooting is, has shoots
He
it
makes
at
them.
he makes him right. I don't know what he makes him now. I agree with you in the sense that I think McBride should be in the rotation as well. But the Knicks don't view, from what I've read, the Knicks don't view McBride as a point guard. They see him as an off guard. Where if how where is McBride playing as an off guard? You got Bridges playing the 2, you got Devo backing him up. If they see him as an off guard, where is he playing? He would be the 3rd string shooting guard. Or you're playing him out of position per se at behind Brunson. Now, maybe he's grown in his game. And we're not talking about skill set, his game in terms of his floor game. Maybe his floor game has improved since last season. Right? Maybe he'll be much better at organizing the team. Maybe it won't even be that big of a deal if he's in that backup point guard position on the floor with a Devo, on the floor with Hart on the floor with one of the starters. Maybe it's not even that big a deal that he's not a floor general, right? That could be the case as well. But if we're looking for somebody that's going to run the team behind Brunson, I would put Campaign and his experience over Deuce. This is not about Deuce improvement. This is not about Deuce's defense. This is not about Deuce's shooting. And this is not about anything but the fact that the Knicks were not great when Brunson was off the floor. And just maybe they'll be better with a veteran point guard playing behind them. That's the only thing it's about for me. If I had to put money on it, though, Campaign would be situational. Like, if I had to put money on it, I think Campaign is situational. But for me, I would just like a veteran backup behind Brunson. I don't want to lose. I want the Knicks to be obviously going to fall off a little bit, but I don't want them. I want them to be okay when Brunson is off the floor.
You make a good point. Payne provides some things on the floor that Deuce simply cannot, and vice versa. So, and maybe it's matchup, maybe it depends on what we need on the floor. Maybe it's if we feel like we do need another, lead guard type on the floor with a unit, then Cam gets to play. And if we need more defense on the floor, then maybe Deuce, gets the burn. And Deuce did shoot the ball extremely well last year. And we kind of expected that. Like, that was the surprise and supreme disappointment in McBride's first 2 years for both of us, I think, was that he didn't shoot the ball well, and we expected him to. And then he found his stroke this year, and that was a great thing. And so if he can do that, then I think that's great. But again, I think Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart need as many minutes as possible. There's just not a lot of spare minutes available, especially when you figure that Brunson's probably getting 36 minutes. Randle's probably getting 36 minutes. McHale is probably getting 36 minutes. OG's probably getting 36 minutes. So if all these guys are getting 36 minutes, there's not a lot of extra time for a Campaign or a Deuce McBride. If you want the honest to goodness truth, I mean, and maybe it deuces back to the role where he, there were certain points last year where he'd come in for like 10 minutes. Like he'd play like 5 minutes at the end of the second quarter and maybe 5 minutes into the third or something like that. Just to spell somebody or whatever. Just he's in the rotation but not playing heavy rotational minutes. I think the much more fascinating question is who closes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you bring up a great point. If you're getting Josh Hart 25 minutes, if you're getting Devo 25 minutes, there's not going to be a lot of backup point guard minutes as it is. Whether that's Kolick, whether that's McBride, whether that's Campaign, it's just not going to be a lot of minutes there. Because in order for Devo to get 25, where's he where's he getting those minutes from? Is he going to play a little one, or where is he getting his 25 minutes from?
It's a great question, but I don't see him getting Obi Toppin. I don't see him, being a 14-minute a game guy, especially with the way that he shot the ball last year. I mean, he was elite, and I think if you don't play him, if you don't give him those minutes, you don't give him a chance to really, to take advantage of that volume, high percentage volume shooting that he was giving us last year. He was really good last year. Devo was like much better than I thought he was going to be. He was fantastic. And to your credit, that was one of the things that you said when we signed him, was that you thought he had another level to his game, and that's exactly what he showed. His 3-point shooting was remarkable last year.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Doxorus Rex and a few others in the chat bring up, good points about even Devo's ball handling. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like to your point, Jeff, was campaign brought in for insurance, or was he brought in to play, to be part of the rotation, or was he brought in just to be situational? If he is situational, the Knicks must feel comfortable that the offense is going to run okay without Brunson, um, with Deuce and Devo because of the other guys that's on the floor. Maybe their role won't have to be as heavy, right? Because either OG or Bridges or Randall, one of those guys is going to be in the second unit with them.
Well,
So
I think that's definitely true. And I think it may be Randall because I think that that's a good chance to feature Randall and against second units and really give him a chance to kind of go off against and maybe not, but I just think that you'll see some of that. But or maybe it's McCall's time to shine. Maybe that's when you get him. What I would like to see is I like the trend last year where Randall had those big first quarters. We would feed the beast and he would just get hot and he'd have 12, 14, 16, 18 points, by mid second quarter, and he was just cooking. And then in the second half, Jalen was able to, that lighten the load for Brunson so that he was fresher in the fourth quarter. And then come winning time, the ball was in Jalen's hands, and it just seemed to work and flow really well. So I'd like to see some kind of a play on that, but I really think that especially on a second unit, I think Bridges can handle a lot of the primary scoring responsibilities. He was tasked with being the one in Brooklyn all of last year, and I think you would say miscast because I don't think that's what he is. But if you're talking about leading the way on the second unit, I think that's definitely something that this isn't Bridges' skill set, and I think that's something that we'll see out of him this year.
yeah, and if that is the case, then whether Devo or Nick Bride can handle the ball is a mute point. And to Bodega Wi-Fi's point, Randall will have the ball in his hands when Brunson is off the court. So in a situation like that, the non-Brunson minutes probably won't be as big a deal this year than it was during our injuries. Now, what I don't remember, Jeff, do you remember if the non-Brunson minutes were a big deal when we were healthy?
I don't actually. I don't. I'm wanting to say that they weren't, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
Yeah,
I know
because
there
maybe
weren't many problems at all in January when OG came but remember it was kind of like 3 seasons, right? Because we started off and we had Quickly and Barrett in a lot of those situations early on in the season, until the trade, and then and Isaiah Hartenstein was able to help us out in some of those situations also, with some tertiary, secondary playmaking after those two were traded, but IQ handled a lot of that early on in the season, and then we were lights out when OG came aboard, so I can't imagine the non-Brunson minutes were a super concern. I think that once Randall went down, I think they absolutely were a concern. So
yeah,
I think, and I kind of think that that's a point, going back to Precious for a minute, that maybe we should consider too, is that when Precious was getting his heavy minutes, we were decimated at that time. It wasn't just like one or two players that were out. OG was out. Randall was out. Sometimes Hartenstein was out. Mitch was out. And so in that case, yes, you would expect that the one loss record wasn't going to be up to snuff, and maybe the on-off numbers weren't going to be as fantastic. But if you're talking about a role for him where he can excel a little bit more, if he's on the floor with other really good players and in a backup 15, 20 minutes per night kind of a situation, surrounded by other good players, maybe surrounded by mostly shooters to mitigate his lack of an offensive game, then maybe he fits and looks better. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to rationalize at this point, I guess. But I could definitely see a world where he looks better just because the players that are around him are better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, that's fair. Somebody in the chat was asking about Tyler Kolek's salary. He signed 4-year, 9+ million over the 9 years, not per year. 6.5 is guaranteed. So he has an annual average salary of 2.2 million per year. So he's
That's
not
going to be a
making
great
more.
contract.
Yeah, he's not
Year
making
three,
more
that's
than
the,
Tetris. Mhm.
he's the he's gonna and come when we're in the when we're over the second apron, he's gonna be a massive piece for us off the bench. That's my prediction. I think it's going to take him a while to get his seasoning and get a flow. I think he's going to spend most of this season in the G League. He'll get some opportunities here and there when injuries pop up, perhaps. But I don't even know if he will because campaign is a pro's pro. I mean, and I think if you're going to give Thibodeau the choice between a rookie and a guy with 50 plus playoff games under his belt, I think we all kind of know which direction he would lean, unless Kolek just like bowls everybody over, blows everybody out of the water, which I mean is possible, and I would love to see it. But I think Kolek's just a good, you know, asset to have in the background. Let him, let him. Let's water him. Let him grow, and I think you're gonna see down the road he's gonna be a really nice player.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty high on him, not necessarily for next year. And listen, that doesn't mean he can't be great next year. I just prefer experience in a year in which we're aiming to win a championship. Can a rookie make a contribution on a championship team? Absolutely, but they're up and down. Even Nimhard, who was good for, I don't know, was Nimhard a rookie last year or was that his second year?
I'm not sure.
But even the rookies, even the
Christian
rookie Brown,
Braun is a good example. Braun,
yeah,
whatever
for
his
them,
name.
up and down, up and down. So I'm not saying Kolek can't make a contribution. I'm just pointing to the fact that rookies are up and down. That's part of their development. My preference is to have somebody solid with with experience who's used to the NBA game and they don't have to go through the lumps um in the growing pains. That's where I'm at with Kolek. But
Reliability. You don't know what you're getting out of a rookie.
right.
You hope. In other words, you pretty much know if campaign is healthy. You pretty much know what you're getting out of campaign. He's a trusted, grizzled NBA veteran, and there's a I don't know. I like to use the phrase baseline of competence there that for sure. Like we don't know if Tyler Kolek can guard anybody at the NBA level. Like that's not something that we know. I mean, I'm not saying that to disparage him. Like I said, I really like him. I really love his court vision, his passing, and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
If he's a cone on defense, maybe that means he's not playable in a playoff type atmosphere as a rookie. You know, and he's certainly not the biggest guy in the world. And excuse me, campaign is not the greatest defender in the world, but he's not Swiss cheese either. I mean,
Right.
he's a decent defender. At least that's my recollection.
Right.
And in fact, if Philly had played him more, they might have beat us.
He definitely, I think they played Healed over him to start, and then they
Yeah,
benched Healed, And then and every time he came in, first of all, I love his energy.
Yeah.
Like he came in with just really a lot of energy off the bench. I really like that. I like his shot making. I like campaign. And I like his story as well. You know, he was drafted either right before or right after Booker, if I'm not mistaken. He was highly touted coming out of college, um, and just didn't make it. He was out of the league for a few years before Monty Williams picked him up in the bubble with Phoenix. And there was a game when Chris Paul couldn't go, and he came out. I think he dropped like 30.
Yeah, he was
So
lights out. I remember that.
yeah, so he's not a slouch, you know, he's a really, really good player, and he's somebody that on a good night can drop 20 for you, you know? So, I like him. Even if he's not in the rotation, just having him, as a situational player, I like that as well.
And think
I
about energy with Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, two other really big energy guys potentially off the
Mhm,
bench. And you know what? Small lineups are a possibility. You know, you may have a situation where you have a second unit where you're playing four guards and having one big man. Who knows?
mhm,
I don't know that they'll do that, but it's certainly possible. I mean, you there's a lot of flexibility with the lineups that can take place with this roster, and I think that's a big part of the championship puzzle. Is you have to be able to win different ways. You have to be able to win the grinded out half court game, but you have to be able to win in a shootout sometimes too. You have to be able to win the defensive struggle. You have to be able to win. You know, there's all these different types of games. You know, you have to be able to win a game where you have to ISO a little bit. You have to be able to make the extra pass if you need it. There's all these different scenarios, and the Knicks are more, and that's what was the magic of the Boston Celtics this year is they could do all of those things. Like they were very difficult to prepare for because Derek White is an outstanding defender. So is Drew Holiday. So, and so that they got contributions from everybody and everywhere. And so if you're going to combat that, and that's what the challenge is for the Knicks, because that's who we're chasing. Everybody else is too, but being in the Eastern Conference in the same division, that's your number one target right there. You've got to be able to match up. You've got to be able to do different things. You've got to be able to throw different looks at a team
right.
like Boston, and we can do that now. There's a lot of different ways we can play.
Yeah, that's up to Tibbs to do that. Another thing I think the Knicks are doing and setting up with this roster is making sure our situational players are stronger. Like if we do get hit with injuries, um, we can bring in a Pain. We can bring in, well, Sims was here um already. I think you know what? Now that I'm rolling down the list, we probably still got some work to do because it's just Payne, Sims. I don't know if Okiki makes this
I wouldn't
makes
count on OT. I would be surprised if he makes the team.
yeah, makes the roster. I like somebody put in the chat. I like Yerksevin. Um I like his skill set as well. I
Is
would
he
like to
still a
see
free
him
agent?
on this team. He is. Well,
Hmm.
as far as I know, unless did someone sign him today?
I don't know. I didn't know he was still on the market. I thought he had signed with someone for some reason. I could be completely off base on that.
If somebody knows that, can you put it in the chat if he signed with somebody um
Because
already? Or
remember, that's
somebody
the
said
other
he's
thing.
mhm.
We have that taxpayer mid-level exception, and I think we're going to use it on somebody. And so that's another player that you're going to be able to add to the mix who may be situational, but when that situation arises, they'll be ready to play. Or maybe that's where we get our backup five from, and Precious becomes situational. And I would be more than okay with Achiuwa being situational. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
That's a strong situational line. Payne and Precious, that's strong situational players right there. Um This is the thing, and I know a lot of Knick fans, I hope we're not getting PTSD because of the injuries last year, and now we want players to play 28 minutes, 30 minutes, 32 minutes. You gotta keep in mind, though, if they're playing 32 minutes, that means their backup is playing more minutes than perhaps we would even like, And so that gives whenever you have your best players off the floor, the advantage could be to the other team depending on who they have on the floor. So if you're playing your start is 32 and the other team is playing their start is 36 for 4 minutes a game, you're at a disadvantage. You know what I mean? So I don't think the Knicks should play not to be injured. I think the Knicks should just play the regular minutes that teams that players would normally play. And they fine if a guy needs to take a day off, they need or a game off, then they need to take a game off. But to force feed minutes, like to cap players' minutes based on what could happen, I don't know about that.
Well, and I
I'm
don't
gonna
know if Mitchell Robinson has ever played that many minutes. In other
I'm
words,
not talking about Mitch. Yeah, right. I'm
no,
talking
but
about
I'm
OG.
just thinking here from the backup five spot position. Normally, even in his best years, the split was like 28-20, wasn't it? Or 26-22, somewhere in that. So if that's the case, again, I think some of those minutes are going to be held by by Randall or OG when they're healthy. I don't think there's. I would be shocked if one of those two isn't playing some minutes at the five, and then I guess it's Sims or Precious for those other minutes, but I don't think it's automatic that Precious or Sims is going to eat up all of those minutes. Because in other words, if you're playing Precious, if you're going to play a 6'8" guy anyway, you can
Right,
play a 6'8" guy who's a lot more skilled in
right,
Anunoby or in Randall. I
right,
mean, and that way that allows you to give Josh Hart more minutes. That allows you to give Deuce McBride more minutes. That allows you to give DiVincenzo more minutes, and so you Jabroni, just that was my feeling that was the case that 27-28's been his so and the reason I bring that up is
and he's
because if
still
that's
getting injured.
hmm?
At 27, I said, and he's still injuries. So a lot of times Knicks fans are like, oh, lessen the minutes. If you lessen the minutes, that lessens the chances of injury. Mitchell Robinson hasn't played more than 27 minutes in his career, if I'm not mistaken. And that hasn't stopped the injuries.
He's just an injury prone player, though. I mean, that's just all there is to. I mean, there are some guys who, you can barely get them to step outside their house without, something happening to them. So, there are just, some guys are just like that, and I think, a lot of it is Robinson plays really hard. He puts his body on the line, and and a lot of times when you do that, he's on the floor all the time, and those sorts of things. So, you know that can take a toll, especially when you're 7 foot tall. So,
For sure.
uh,
For sure. JJ, I'm with you. I'm curious to see how many minutes DiVincenzo gets now. I would like to see DiVincenzo and Hart get at least 25 minutes a game. I think Hart is at his best the more minutes he plays. And I just think from what I've seen from Devo last year and how he helped us, to have him playing, I don't know, 16 minutes, 18 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know. I just think for who? To get who more minutes? So you're going to cut DiVincenzo's minutes to give it to who? Who's better than DiVincenzo in that second unit to give those minutes to? Is the question. And I don't really see how he gets 25 minutes without cutting into the point guard minutes. Are you playing him at 3? Like, how does he get 25 minutes? He can't get him sharing the 2 with Bridges unless you're gonna move Bridges to play some
you could
3
play
and
Bridges at the three some,
share
but then
some minutes with OG. Yeah,
and
yeah.
especially in other words, if you're playing OG mostly at the 4 and the 5, then you can, you start him at the 3, and then you can shift him to 4 and 5 and in various routes. And that'll free up some of those minutes to
Free up some
to
minutes
to to put
for
DiVincenzo in at the
Devo.
2.
Yeah, that's true. But then you also got to try to get Hart 25 minutes.
Correct.
And I would think Hart is probably our backup power forward. And I know fans will say that he's kind of small, but he was our starting power forward in place of Randall, and he did a hell of a job. When you
Yeah.
think about power forwards in terms of rebounding and defense, you know, he can
And
he
then
can play he can play that position. Yes.
you have the added advantage when he gets that rebound, he can just go. He can turn that into offense pretty quickly because most fours can't keep up with him. He's not saying he's the best ball handler or anything like that. I'm just saying that he has that ability to transition from defense to offense once he gets those rebounds, and he does get those rebounds. Best rebounding guard in the league last year. So or
Yeah.
if you want to say, well, I mean, he wasn't really a guard last year, but I mean, he even so for a forward, his rebounding numbers were outstanding. So,
For somebody
um,
under 6'5", he was
yeah,
outstanding. Um, and I see him playing behind Randall, um, as the backup 4, probably getting some backup 3, with Bridges getting some backup 3 and OG getting some backup, some backup 5. When it's all said and done, I believe Devo and Hart will play 25 minutes, at least 25 minutes, um, off the bench.
and especially when you factor in injuries, because remember, we know Anunoby's going to miss time, so that's gonna, and then in those situations, then uh, Bridges slides into the 3. DiVincenzo probably slides into the starting. Uh, to the starting 2 spot, and then so you'll have time like that, and we know he's going to miss 15, 20 games at least. So that's going to be able to increase those guys' minutes totals for the season as well, because in those situations you'll see DiVincenzo play a lot more.
Yeah. Tibbs benched DiVincenzo for Deuce last year. DiVincenzo and Josh turned the ball. Okay, Parrish, you might be right. Deuce doesn't turn the ball over as much, but I don't think you can argue that DiVincenzo and Josh are better players. And so sometimes you just deal with the fact that they turn the ball over a little more because of the other things that they give you. You know?
And
Okay.
Dante's a sniper, man. Dante is a sniper, and I know Deuce had great 3-point shooting percentages also. But I think if you look at the degree of difficulty of the shots taken, I think the shot diet for DiVincenzo and the percentage is much more impressive than for Deuce, because I think Deuce's threes are a lot more of just the plain old catch and shoot variety, and I think DiVincenzo had to do more last year. And I could be mistaken on that, but that's just my feeling.
He probably got a
Mega,
bit more. He probably got a more attention than Deuce. Um, I'm pretty sure he got more attention to Deuce. I'm not taking anything away from Deuce McBride. I just think DiVincenzo is just a better player
I don't think
right
that's a
now.
hot take at
Right now.
all. I
Yeah, I don't think
don't
that's
think
a
that's
hot
a hot
take.
take at all.
Right. Shout out to Mega NYK. Appreciate you. Okay. Let's see what Jabroni says. He says Brunson, McHale, OG, and Randall each get 34. Mitch gets 26. Devo and Hart gets 24. And Deuce and Precious get 15 each. Yeah. Yeah, that's close. That's close. Give or take a few minutes um here and there. But yeah, Deuce and Precious are not going to be getting like 12 to 15 minutes. It's just not going to be a lot of um
I think that's a
minutes.
pretty good estimate, though, Jabroni. See,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
good work right there.
Yeah, I think somebody else also put something similar on the other show.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. And if Brunson and them get 36, then and that means Deuce and Precious minutes will probably go down even more,
Even further.
even further. I think 34 is low. I think they'll get 35 to 36, but that's fine. We're just talking about a minute,
You can put 36 for each of them, and then just probably reduce Precious down to 6 or 7 minutes. That one stint in the first half.
Dang, Jeff. You got them playing under 10?
Well, I'm just saying, if you're playing all those other guys 36, I mean, that's what it would have to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to take it away from Devo and Hart. I wouldn't. I don't think you're going to take it away from Mitch, especially when you want the rim protection in there. And I think Coach likes Deuce. I think that Deuce is going to have his 15-minute stint, and I think it's going to be pretty regular this year. I think he showed that he can perform well in high pressure situations, and I think that's important.
He did. He did. Yeah. Yeah. Chef NYK says this minutes distribution would have how is that going to have the same if you can't play 34 minutes and you're a starter and that's going to cause injury problems, then you need a different trainer. You need to work on your recovery, you need to work on your nutrition, you need to work on your body more if you can't play 34 NBA minutes. Starters play more than that or about that and more. Right? So if that is gonna cause injuries, then those
But
players have
remember too, Chef NYK, this is not the 90s when they'd be doing 3-hour hell practices on off days. That doesn't happen anymore. They are very cognizant of the recovery that it takes when you play those heavy minutes. And so I think the Knicks organization in particular, if you listen to the Roommates podcast, they talk a lot about not only their nutrition, but how they handle their recovery days, and that they have the ballroom walkthroughs where they don't really have full practice days when they're on the road. They just kind of walk through so they kind of know what they're doing and they're prepared mentally, but they're giving their bodies a chance to rest. And so it's not like it used to be in those instances. And again, as Queen said, we're not talking about like playing these guys 44 minutes a night or some crazy thing like that. Like that's look, 34 minutes, that means you're sitting over an entire quarter in a game. Like you're sitting 14 minutes. That means you're not on the court for a full quarter worth of time during a game. That's a lot of rest. For a starter, for a prime player. I mean, but again, I don't think you can. I think this whole injury, the Tibbs wears out his player narrative is overplayed, overstated, played out. I can't stand it. Like I don't buy it. I think it's a bunch of nonsense, and maybe I'm wrong. And if I am, I am. But I don't put a lot of stock into it. I think that Kawhi Leonard and company with the organized rest days and everything has just kind of ruined the game. And guess what? You can't win your postseason awards or your season awards if you're playing less than 65 games anyway. So get out there, play, and do your thing.
and not
I
just
mean,
and not
injuries
just
are going to happen. Go ahead.
regardless. The
Yeah.
Knicks are not playing their players on average any more minutes than any other team. Now, obviously, the minutes did go up after the injuries. But when there aren't injuries and everyone is healthy, the Knicks play about the same amount of minutes as any other team. So that the Knicks now have to play their players 32 minutes. And this is the trade-off too. You guys want to play 30 minutes, 32 minutes. The trade-off, are you willing to trade off instead of finishing 1 or 2, finishing 4 or 5? Because the
Great
idea that
question.
you're going to play your starters less and still win the same amount of games and still end up in the same seeding, how does that work? If you're playing your starters less minutes, that means you're playing players who are not as good as your starters more minutes. And if other teams are playing their starters more, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So that means over the course of an 82 game season, you may lose a few games here and there. And that means sometimes the difference between the number 1 and 2 seed, the number 3 and sometimes it's just a few games. So are you willing
It
to
was one
trade?
game
Because
last year.
it was one
We had to
game.
beat the Bulls. We had to beat the Bulls in overtime to get the 2 seed. Remember?
Right. Right.
We lost that game.
Exactly.
We were the 3.
So we can't have it all. You want to play players 32 minutes? Don't complain when we're in the 4th seed and we win 46 games instead of 52, or we win 50 games instead of 56, because you can't have it all. Can't have it all. All right. Yeah, that's different. That's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about, yes, I would like to see that too. But there was a few games we were up by I don't know how many, took the starters out. Next thing you know, we scrambling trying to win. And I remember that game saying, okay, now I see why he keeps now I see why he keeps the players in. We all want healthy players in the playoffs, but you can't play scared. Scared money don't make money. You got to be smart, but you can't play scared. Oh, we don't want no injuries, so let's play guys 28 minutes and then they get hurt anyway. Just got to play. Just play. All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
This
I'll take a
isn't
few more
basketball
chats.
related, but I
Mhm.
wanted to shout out Simone Biles in the U.S. Olympic team. That lady is 27 years old, superstar, best athlete in the world. Shout out to you overcoming the twisties from the last Olympics and coming back and kicking the world's rear end. Good by you, Simone Biles. I couldn't be more proud as a fan of USA Sports than I am of that young lady. She's a triumph, and we should all just much respect to you and much love to her and the U.S. Olympians as a whole. But what Simone Biles did this week is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, shout out to her. And I haven't even been following the Olympics, believe it or not. Um, Wiz wants to call in for 2 minutes. Let me see. Am I set up? Let me see, Wiz. Am I set up?
We must have
Let's
said
see.
something about Deuce that he didn't like.
Must have said something, right? Hold on. All right. It is set up. Wiz, you can call. Do you have the number locked in, or do I need to show the number? Let me see.
Better show it just in case.
Yeah. This is for Wiz. So, and anybody else who wants to call in, we'll take a call or two. Wow. That was uh-oh.
To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello?
Salute, Queen. Hail to the Queen.
Can you hear that, Jeff? Can everybody in the chat hear that?
I can hear him. How you doing, Wiz?
Looking now, Jeff. This is dedicated because of you, Jeff. You inspired me, Jeff. You guys ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I meant to call last Friday, but I got busy. Okay, so sorry about this little delay. Someone got a contract extension last Friday, that I thought should have waited another year. You know, his name is Tom. So I don't get your cancer, Queen. I got to dedicate a little tune. I want a little song. Well, here it goes. This is the background. I don't want to get the cancer, so I won't play too loud, okay? So you guys may hear a little background there. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, all I'm saying is stopping this with all my skills. I got my voice all clear, and I'm ready to dedicate this to Mr. Thibodeau. Ready? Looking back over my years, I guess I shedded some tears. Time and time again. This time I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. But another season, things ain't right. I'm losing again. Oh no, I hope it doesn't happen. It's a fool to lose twice and start all over again. Now here you go. Here goes hitting. Think I'm gonna let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Looks like another Knicks TKO. Another Knicks Sims KO. Let's let I do correctly. Another Knicks Sims KO. I'm gonna let it go. Let it go. Let it go. What do you think about it? It looks like another Knicks Sims KO. Okay, that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I don't want to get the canceled, please. I don't get suspended. That's unfair, guys. I'm optimistic, but my fear is it looks like another Knicks Sims KO. If that happens next year, I'm going to be so mad. I'm going to be so mad. It's so sad.
Listen,
That's all I got here.
at the
That
end
was
of
it.
the day, they can fire Thibodeau whether they paid him or not. Dolan has the money. I don't think that's going to stop anything.
I know, but if we get knocked into the second round again, after 2 years of success,
Listen, if we get
I
knocked
look
out
like
in
I
this,
feel like a fool. He's a fool to lose twice. He's a fool to lose twice and start all over again. Did you hear my boy say that?
yes.
Oh, okay.
But do you? But
That's what I
we're
wanted
not.
to give you last Friday. I mean,
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. We're not starting all over again, though. We building. Oh wow, we got another call. All right,
but
we'll
the new
take what?
contract, man. That new contract. And this is to get you to 100 likes. That was a song that I know is going to go viral. People are probably calling right now saying, get on here. This is that voice of the genius of majesty. And 100 likes right now. I'm going to have it. Boom, 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 boom. Because of the music.
All right,
Musical skills.
we got somebody else on the call.
Okay, Quinn. Peace and love.
Appreciate you. Oh, I guess not. I guess not. Anyway, any last words?
Just you're the best, Queen. Thanks for having me on. And man, is it September yet? I'm ready to get this thing going, man. I don't think I've been this excited about a Knicks season in a long time. Like
Five, six,
Riley
1, 3.
era Knicks.
Welcome
Last one, Geoff.
Darren.
to accept.
Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, Queen? This is Darren. I'm calling from Florida, courtesy of Brooklyn.
All right, all right. What you got for us?
Well, I just wanted to talk about the Knicks off season. I think, we all know we need one more serviceable big, but I don't think we need to make that happen necessarily right now. I think we could be patient. I think we got to look at what we do have, and we got 2 elite defensive wings, and I think that's more important in today's game. And I think we match up best with Boston, with Mikal and OG, and with Julius. I don't think they have an answer for him, for someone to cover him, and I think though I can't rely on Mitch, to get through the season. I really hope we can make a move. And I would trade McBride. I like Deuce, but I would trade McBride if we could get Durant from Detroit. Because I know Kessler's not realistic from Utah, but I would give up Deuce for one of those guys. Capella is someone else that people talk about. I don't know how we match up the money with that, but I think the Knicks are definitely headed in. They got all the pieces in place, Queen, except I would feel better once we get that backup big. But like I said, I don't feel we need to rush it. Everyone wants to make the move now. Hopefully we can make a move in December. But I think the Knicks can definitely give Boston a run for their money and are going to be one of the best teams in the league. Health, as long as they stay healthy. Big fan of your show. Thank you. That's all I got.
I appreciate you making some very, very good points, particularly about waiting. And yeah, I think Sims and Mitch and Precious is good enough to start the season. I would like another big as well, but like you said, we don't have to rush it. So I appreciate the call.
Great call. Good job. Well thought out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Like we don't have to, we don't have to rush it. All right, we're gonna get out of here on a call by Jay Boogie, a song by Jay Boogie. I just want to shout out the chat, Darlene Bryant. JJ said his ears are still ringing from Wiz Call, Mega NYK, Sam Granderson, Keith Turner, Nick Yak was in the house earlier, Sherwin, JJ, Dwayne Dennis, Bodega Wi-Fi, Staffer. I'm not going to get to everybody. Kerry Cox was in here. Wiz BKLA. Thank you for the call. Chef NYK. Most High Mansa Dusan. Hope I got that right. Paris Duggar. I appreciate you. And I don't know if Prezi the Boss, Jabrani Z, but all top notch. A lot of names. I don't know if you guys changed your name or if this is your first time here. If it's your first time here, welcome. If not, welcome back. I hope to see you again. And I'm looking for, here he is, Docosaurus _Rex. I appreciate you. Geoff, always a pleasure. Ajay, I'll be back home next week, Saturday, with that New York internet.
That good Wi-Fi.
That good Wi-Fi. I think I'll probably go on multiple times that week. Yeah, just excited about just being able to turn on a computer and everything works out the box. Yeah. All right. Until wait, hold on. All right. This is from Jay Boogie. We out of here.
Hey, yo, Boogie, they think when the season is over, the office don't put in that work.
Can y'all hear it? Sounds low. You can hear it?
I can hear it.
Means necessary. Leon Rose stay working. Grind don't stop like bad break. Office stay working. 24/7. That's all night and
chat. Let me know if you can hear it.
There is right away. No time off.
Oh, they hear it. Okay.
No time off. This on season. No time off. This on season. No time off. This on season.
I told Leon and West this my on season at the summer league, new season after the summer league. I'm feeling good with the squad that's coming this year, but still I'm healing up from the wounds that short as last year. You know my name, Jay Boogs. I'm known to set it straight. Like Coach Tib at the games, he known to watch tape. The only coach at the games that never sit down with the hair combed to the side, swag from Midtown. The truth get told every time when I speak. Salute. 3 capital S's every time, that's me. When Rob died from the shy, you know I was sick. Amon Shepard, damn, I lost another Nick. I'm paraphrasing the sleeve on with this movie talk. That Brunson footwork look like Mike when he moonwalk. That Nick logo, my fashion colors, they orange blue. This episode called Fred Catch and Shoot. We're so different, never can be the same. Dexter Henry with the Flow Podcast, New York, we got game. My no looks in the booth, they assist you. Let it travel like Scott Foster, blowing his whistle.
Nick Challenge successful.
Damn, I got crazy bars. That left hand on the rim poster, John Starks. I'm reservating the finals coming next June. Club quarters, already I got 2 rooms.
By any means necessary. Leon Rose stay working. Grind don't stop like bad break. Office stay working. 24/7. That's all night and day. There is no tomorrow. There is right away. No time off. This on season. 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 No time.
See, when y'all think he ain't working, all of a sudden he come with that boom. That's that office work. That's why we call this the on season. It's time to get them roses up. Get them Leon roses up. 24-25.
By any means necessary. Leon Rose stay working. Grind don't stop like bad breaks. Office stay working.